Okay, so let's start the next panel discussion now. So I would like to introduce Miss Cordelia Henry. She is the most amazing and energetic woman, and you can see why I say so in the panel discussion. Founder of Horizons, we welcome you, Miss Cordelia Henry. We also welcome our panel members, Miss Aviva Wittenberg Cox. She is CEO 21st. Ms. Deshini Newman, Managing Director EMEA IAC2, and Ms. Shelina Doro, Global Goodwill Ambassador for South Sudan at UNMISS Women Protection Advisory Board. We welcome all the panelists to this lovely panel discussion, Bursting the Myths of Diversity and Inclusion. Over the mic to you, Ms. Cordelia Henry.
Hello, gorgeous girls. I am so excited to be with you today. Thank you, Saloni. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, everybody at Misquoten, for giving us the opportunity to share our truth today. So we've had an opportunity to get together just very briefly a few days ago to just exchange our views. And I'm one of these people who love to create havoc, who like to create chaos, and who love women who have different opinions. So Deshini, I know that you are here. I know Aviva is with me, and I haven't seen Shelina, but I'm going to ask you all, just put your videos on, because I'm a people person, so I want to see your beautiful faces. Cool. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, ladies. Great. And is Shelina just going to come on board with us in a short while? Got to see my tribe. Got to see my girls. Okay. All right, well, look, we're going to make a start. We've got 20 minutes and I want to be on time. So one of the questions that Misquoten asked us to raise with each other was, you know what? People believe that unconscious bias is widespread. Now, Aviva actually feels that that's not quite correct. So Aviva, I would just love for you to share your truth, your view on this particular topic.
Well, Cordelia, thank you very much. And I share your pleasure in shaking things up. So let me just challenge a little bit the frame that we bring to these topics. So is unconscious bias widespread? Absolutely. Is conscious bias widespread? Even more so. Does every human being on the planet have an innate preference for people like them? Yes, that's where we come from, right? So my suggestion is, if we want to engage and include everybody in a discussion on how to move forward in a way that reflects what the evolution of the market, the talent, and the world looks like today, it helps not to make people feel terrible. It helps not to accuse. It helps not to call people names. It helps not to have all the progressives fighting amongst themselves about the words they use. And it helps to offer an aspirational role model. So rather than accusing everybody of bias, I'd say everybody needs an education about really interesting and engaging differences and complementarities that we all have, which means if you're trying to, in particular, what I do in the world is gender balance large organizations, don't roll out unconscious bias trainings, but help skill up managers and leaders who are not competent yet in working across genders, cultures, races, and differences. This is why in every global company I've ever worked with, there's been years of cross-cultural training. We just need to enlarge the definition, right? But if anybody thinks that accusing the dominant group, whatever it is, male, female, white, Western, Black, of being wrong and discriminatory, I do not think that's the most effective way of having them engage in change.
Okay, so my question for you is, why does it need to start at the top? Why have you mentioned leadership?
Because I think leadership creates culture. We're seeing it extraordinarily clearly in the world today. There are some countries where the leaders are sadly autocratic bigots, racists, and everything that we thought we were trying to eradicate from the world. And as I wrote in a recent Forbes blog that went viral, the countries that are actually led by women have outperformed by a long shot in how they've managed this very complex crisis of pandemic. They've done it with skill, with care, with love, and with inclusion. And I think the contrast that we see in these different leadership styles has a huge impact on how efficient the systems they're running are able to change. And what we see at a national political level, I see all the time at a corporate level as well. I just want to highlight some work I've currently been looking at with the BBC that has, in a few short years, totally gender balanced the experts they interview, the presenters they show to the world, the stories they cover. They have actually made a rule of 50-50 representation, male-female, which changes everything that the rest of the world that's consuming this news, this fiction, this comedy show, the sports scene, suddenly discovers that it can look and sound dramatically more balanced. And I think that's a win-win for men, women, and children the world over.
Fabulous. Well, in the interest of time, Deshani, I'm not going to ask you to comment on what Aviva has had to say, but I'm going to move us slightly over to the topic of basically achieving workplace inclusion from the inside out standpoint. And then depending on our time frame, we can double back and just add any comments, Deshani, you may have. Thank you so much, Aviva. But talk to us more about your views on that inside approach. Can't hear you. We can't hear you, unfortunately. And you're not on mute. Oh, yes, you were on mute. Can you try again, Deshani?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yay, it's progress.
Lovely. So I was just want to say thank you very much. It's brilliant to be on this panel and have this opportunity to share as well. So just looking at about transformation from the inside, I think, you know, that obviously is absolutely essential. And when we look at the times that we currently are, you know, with the current situation with COVID-19, it's actually provided an opportunity for us as organizations to look at how we're working and the opportunity we're providing to engage more people in different roles and engage more diversity as well in terms of the you know, the opportunities that are available for people to start new roles or to work in a different way as well. So in the past, organizations, you know, felt that, okay, in many cases, you had to be, you know, tied to your desk or else you can get the job done. What we've seen in the last 3 months is that really home working does work and people have changed the way they're working. And what does this do for us? It means that we've now got more access to more people that can, you know, be involved with and can contribute to making a difference in the workplace. So for example, if we look at working moms, there's always been that balance of, you know, trying to get that family balance and that work balance. For carers, the same, you know, the times in terms of being able to ensure that you can balance that over. And what we're finding now is that organizations can actually say, look, you can actually work from home. It works, and it's proven that it does work. And you know, my organization, as a start, we're going to be working remotely, and many organizations within the cybersecurity field have found that yes, this can happen. So I think that's quite important in terms of improving, you know, that diversity within the workplace. But another factor I'd like to bring in here as well is about taking ownership for one's own learning. So yes, that transformation can happen within the inside in terms of getting that support, but we can't just sit there and complain and say, okay, I'm not getting the opportunities I want, but taking the opportunities that are there. And currently, there's a lot of new ways of learning. We've got MOOCs available, there's self-paced learning, there's online access. So, all of us can actually take responsibility for our development and look at what we're doing and how we can, shift the positions we are in as well internally.
Great. So I want to take both of your viewpoints and just share with you a story that happened to me in 1983. There I was in the UK, where I was born and raised by Jamaican parents who arrived in the 60s. And I wanted to do a summer internship. After 6 weeks, the bundle of fun, Cordelia Henry, was offered a job with National Westminster Bank. And my dad was aghast, because in Jamaican families, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, something like an engineer, anything, but you do have to go to university. So I fought with my dad for many, many years. And it wasn't years, actually, I'm lying, it was months, begging and pleading and crying. And my mum in the end coerced him to say, look, if she goes to the workplace, she'll study for her degree at night, and we'll keep pushing her and just let her have the freedom. So in I walked, very black, still am. Very female, still am. Very young, not so much. And the challenges I had is that it was all Caucasian, it was an all boys club, and the leadership didn't want me there, and the subordinates and Deshni didn't want me there. But you know who wanted me there? I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And so I took the glass ceiling into my own hands, and I decided, yes, the glass ceiling exists, but by golly, I'm going to smash it. And it was highs and lows. Don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't easy, but with a belief in yourself, with a desire to achieve, you can overcome what seems impossible. But I do understand that there does need to be changes, not only in legislation, which we're actively doing right now all over the world. There has to be a change in leadership, and there has to be an ability for us as women to have the confidence to be able to surge forward. So that takes me to a point about the pipeline problem. If there is actually a pipeline problem, is there a problem because we don't actually see that we should be paid the same as men? So there's a gender pay gap issue. I know when we were speaking yesterday that Chris, Deshni's colleague, had some data to share with us, which basically was saying that organizations are not looking as further afield as they should. So Aviva, if I can just ask you to share with us your views on the pipeline problem, if you believe there's a problem, and Deshni, for you to share any opposing views or thoughts or personal experiences that you may have. Over to you, lovely ladies.
Well, Cordelia, luckily, we've come a long way, baby, right? And the world has changed quite dramatically, at least parts of the world. So I would argue a little bit with you can always make it. If I was a young Japanese woman or a young Indian woman or a young Brazilian woman today, the stakes remain very high and very difficult. So I think what we do need is systemic change. It is happening. It's happening at slightly different paces around the world. And I would argue one of the challenges I face all the time is how we frame this issue. Is it a pipeline problem? No, it's not a pipeline problem. Women are now 60% of university graduates globally. This is not a Northern story or Western story. It's as true in Iran, Brazil, China, India. Women are the talent pool of the future. The issue is in most large companies that I'm working with, they are recruiting very gender balanced at the bottom, except STEM, which is a separate challenge. What now the issue is far more is how to retain and develop and promote that talent through middle management into leadership so that we can have a much bigger, faster change as we go along. And I would just suggest one of the challenges is how we as women frame this issue. It is not a women's issue.
Yeah.
And I will argue it is not a diversity issue. Any woman who still thinks that gender, that women are a diversity dimension, should rethink what we are. We are the majority of the talent. We're the majority of the market in many consumer businesses. Why would we call ourselves diverse? And I think we allow that. Businesses have adopted it, and it is now spread all over the world that women are some kind of a diversity. We aren't a minority. We're actually a highly skilled and very wealthy majority. And until we present ourselves as an enormous, low-hanging fruit opportunity for every company, every country in the world, we're not going to change as fast as we can. So ladies, muscle up. And it's not just a women's issue, and it's not just a working mom issue. So I also want to reframe a little bit that. There are working dads. We have to be able to unlock what men would like to do, which is generally these days parent. That's not very accepted or allowed. And so part of this issue of inclusion that everybody talks about is in developing gender balance. I would love women and companies to be more inclusive of the changes amongst men.
Great, thank you. So Deshni, having been born and raised in South Africa and now living in the UK, what's your view on this?
Okay, so my story is quite an interesting story. You know, I grew up in South Africa during apartheid South Africa, and it was a struggle as a Black woman in South Africa. It was almost impossible to get into the right roles. And you know, I had to make my career by leaving South Africa and coming to the UK. But I have to say that it's a challenge. I think it's still a challenge. And I feel very privileged to be in an organization that actively tries to ensure that we have a diverse workforce. And when I say diverse, I don't just mean, you know, women or people of color, but, you know, generally in the broader sense of it. But my experience, you know, even within the cybersecurity sector, is that we've got a long way to go. There's a lot more that needs to be done in order to ensure that we have more diversity in the workforce. In terms of the research that we've done, you know, it's shown that about 78% of the respondents have stated that organizations have a formal program for hiring. They have a formal program for ensuring that we can, you know, the organizations can have a more diverse workforce. However, the reality of the situation is that, you know, if you're sitting in a meeting, for example, or you're attending a conference, or you're at some kind of industry event, you look around the room and you can see the number of women in senior leadership positions. And I would think, you know, we've come a long way, but there are still a lot of challenges that need to be addressed. And I, for one, feel that when I walk into a room, I think the first thing that's seen, undoubtedly, I know, is I'm female and I'm Black.
Yeah, I can actually identify with that very strongly. But as I said, it's not for lack of trying to get women to take on the fact that it's not about them, it's about what they face, and they've got to actually change their perspective, which is a little bit what you were saying, Aviva. You know, they've got to show up knowing that they are not a special case, that they are great low-hanging fruit, and that is what has to surge forward as they progress and take responsibility for their development. So,
well, I think it's not just if I could just, this is not all about women, right? And women cannot change and succeed in large enough numbers in systems that aren't balancing, right? So I think one of the challenges is not to keep telling women to lean in, which is nice, but it's not going to change the systems. We need to be much more effective lobbyists, powerful, organized agents of change that work on governments, pressure corporates. It's working. We now know how to do this. Please join us. Please email me. There are ways to organize for change that is beneficial to everyone.
So that's interesting. How do we get the men involved? Tell us more about that, because
but the men are involved.
I don't think they should be excluded in the conversation. But many of them don't know how to have a voice because they're told that they're not empathetic and they don't understand. So how can we bring them more into the conversation, bring more of them in?
I'd suggest every women's network be increasingly inclusive, calling out to welcome men who are open to promoting gender balance into their ranks. In every corporate network, I recommend replacing women's networks internally with balance networks that reunite people who are interested in building balance. And I think it's about reframing the topic every single time we talk about it, not as a women's issue, but as a business priority, a national priority, that will make our countries and companies better for everyone, higher performing, more innovative, more creative, and wealthier. So this isn't win-lose, right? And I think we are still in a bit of an old fight, and it's time to just update a little bit our own approaches. This conference is a good example, all women, right? We have to start getting a few more men involved. And that does take a different kind of branding, a different kind of advertising, a different kind of language. Bring them in. We will not change the world alone, as we have never done, right? A lot of the businesses balancing have been balanced by the men leading them.
So Destiny, men, according to Susanna, need to be feminists too. Just like white people need to be proactively anti-racist. We've got Black Lives Matters, which is not new news. I think Will Smith said the only difference is now it's being recorded. What's your view? What's your response to Susanna's view that like white people, we need to be proactively anti-racist and men need to be feminists too? Tell us more about your view on that, Deshni.
So I feel there's lots of ways for us to, we all need to collaborate and work together for business efficiency. And one of the main points for me would be really around mentorship. So when I look at it and I think, how can we build and develop and work together more collaboratively and more successfully, it's really just finding those right mentors, those, the people that can give you, that little bit of step change, offer new opportunities that you can be looking at, and look at how we can build and develop with that. So for me, it's a lot about taking ownership for one's own learning, but also ensuring that you can find the right mentor. You can work with, a mentor who's got different experience from yourself. So in fact, your whole self becomes quite diverse as well.
Interesting. So here's my thing. I believe COVID has enabled us to stop, have a breath, and become human.
Yeah.
And so this is a call for human leadership, for unconditional love to prevail. And so when you are faced with someone who needs to be understood, irrespective of their gender, their skin color, their culture, their way of doing things, how do you respond in a human way, Aviva? What do you do? How do you treat that person so that you bring that culture of inclusion within the organization?
Well, I think one of the hilarious changes and unexpected of this COVID crisis is that we've smashed what I call the kind of Berlin Wall between the personal and professional domains, right? So not only women who have never accepted that wall between personal and private life, but between personal and professional life, but now men too have all their babies running around in the background, have all their calls interrupted, have their board meetings, and they have had an enormous education.
Hello, wait a minute. No, hello, can we have a round of applause? Because I've got one. He's called a husband and he's there on the dining room table.
This is a transformational moment where men of all ages, including all the leaders who run all these organizations that we've been struggling to flexibilize and adopt technology, have now had a hands-on fast introduction. They will not unchange. They have been changed. This is a huge fast forward into adopting more flexibility and work from home, and not just for mothers. This is an enormous liberating factor for fathers. How do you want people to be human? Let them be parents. There's nothing that turns a person into a human better than becoming a parent of both men and women.
So right. You are so right. Okay, so I've got a question that's a little bit tricky, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So we're seeing more and more women desiring to get into the C-suite. My question to both of you is, if you were desiring to have such an opportunity open to you, what would need to be included? For example, would there need to be flexibility? Would there need to be a cause that would basically help you to change lives that you needed to see visible? I mean, what is it that you think women need in order for more of us to start applying for that opportunity for board directorship? What's your view, ladies? Deshni, please kick that off for us.
Thank you. And I think that is a really fascinating question, because with that kind of role, we're all very different, yeah. So yes, we're all the same as we may be, as women. And your question is relating to women. So, we're all the same in that aspect. But as individuals, we bring our own histories and we have our own desires of what we want from that C-suite role. So it'll be quite different for each individual. From my perspective, for me, it's really about the mission. It always has been. What is the mission of the organization? And am I part of that mission? Do I believe in that mission enough to want to spend my life doing what I'm doing? And, in my current role and previous roles, and especially in this role about keeping the world safe and secure, I believe in that. I believe that we need to have a safe and secure online world. I believe that impacts on everybody around the world. And it's enough to keep me excited and keep me on board. And for me, that it's really about the mission first.
Fabulous. Aviva?
I think I totally agree with Deshni. I think, again, the way we frame these things, do women want to get to the C-suite? Do they want to get to boards? No, that's kind of masculine language, right? It's the old hierarchical idea. What do we want? We want to change the world. Of course we do. We want to contribute to causes we believe in. If that's the way these ideas of leadership were better communicated. So I am a full proponent and work a lot with all kinds of women on boards initiatives. I think it's absolutely key that we get women into leadership, but how we sell the idea of leadership has to be much more mission driven than this notion of you need to get on a board for your career. We're not into our careers, we're into service, change, and betterment. And so how we advertise, sell these ideas is part of what we need to learn to become better at. In educating our daughters too, for the earlier speaker who had her daughters all around the table, I think she's doing a really great job.
Great. Well, look, I'm going to close inviting those of you who love this conversation to hang out with myself and the speakers. I know that my scrotum will continue this conversation because it's a fabulous one, but I've just dropped my email in there. I know Aviva has dropped hers in there. If you want to continue talking to us, then please do reach out to us. Our emails are there. And I'm just loving what Monique Clusters has said. She said, good ingredients is guts, glory, and a personal bag. What does personal bag mean, I wonder? Big, hairy, ambitious goals. Yay! To keep us focused. That's what we need. So ladies, on behalf of my Scrotum, I thank you for being such fabulous panelists. I've enjoyed our conversation and I'm impressed that we are actually 2 minutes early. So if you have anything to say, Deshni and Aviva, 1 minute each. Over to you, Deshni. 1 minute.
Mine would be, do you believe in fairies? I do. Don't give up. Just believe in yourself. Believe in what you want and all is possible. But don't let anybody dull your sparkle. Don't let anybody dull your sparkle.
You got it, girl. Oprah Winfrey says, Do not dim your light to walk with anybody. You got it, girl. Aviva.
I think the most important change in the world for every challenge that faces us, whether it be climate change or peace or nuclear war, is more gender balance in leadership everywhere.
Yes, bless you. All right, well,
we got work to do.
We got
move on.
Okay, so Salone, thank you for the opportunity, and Mike, over to you, my love.
Thank you.
I love the way she said that, don't just let anyone dull your sparkle, and the way Miss Aviva spoke about how men have also broken the wall between professional and personal lives, with their children hanging around, their families calling them, and they're on calls and they're on laptops. So that was just wonderful. Thank you so much, all of you. We have questions to be asked. So I would direct them to you, Ms. Cordelia, and you can choose either you or any of the panelists can answer. So the first question is by Mr. Joseph. How do we build full capacity for leadership?
I'd love for you to share your experience on that, Aviva. If you've got one case study that you can share, I think that would be fabulous for Mr. Joseph to just hear.
What was the question? How do we build capacity for leadership?
Yeah, within an organization, an existing organization, I'm assuming, who wants change.
Well, I'd say every large organization does build capacity for leaders. There's all kinds of management development, management leadership programs. I think what I would recommend is, if we're looking for more balanced organization, particularly more gender balance, we have to mainstream an education on how to balance, what it means, and how to become what I call gender bilingual across genders, into leadership development programs, into business school core curriculums on the MBA program. So I see very often in most business schools, for example, there will be a session for women on the side, an elective, something about women in business, when actually what we need to do is bring an education about how gender balance will empower business and society to function better into the core MBA program. Until that happens, we're always going to be seen as a little nice to have on the side. And it's the centrality of where the subject is put into and seen really as a leadership skill.
Fabulous. Any more, Salone?
One more question. So do you believe that it will be enough for women to gain access to different pieces of knowledge and move forward to higher positions just out of their own self-initiated actions and their own motivation, and not through organizational actions and policies to support them? I know the question is a bit long. Do you want me to pick it again?
Yes, if you could shorten it for us, because I got lost.
Oh, definitely. Just a minute. So I speak the question again. Do you believe that it will be enough for women to gain access to different pieces of knowledge and move forward to higher positions just out of their own self-initiated actions and their own motivation, and not through organizational actions and policies to support them?
I think it's a combination of both. One thing I did was to build a network of like-minded people outside of the bank to help me equip myself to go back into the bank and ask for what I want. But if the policies are not there, then no change will happen, and you're banging your head against a brick wall. Deshni, what's your view on that?
My view is that it's a combination of both, as you've suggested, but I think you've got to find the place that is right for you. Don't waste your time. If you're in an organization where you as a woman feel that, okay, I've done the training, I've asked for the mentorship, I've put myself forward for succession planning, and I can't see the next role that I want, you've got to exit. You've got to exit. You've got to take control of your own destiny. You've got to take control of your own career. And I, for one, have had that over the years as well. It's not easy. It's challenging. And if we say it's got any better, I don't think it has. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done, but you've got to find the organization that you think is going to welcome your expertise, welcome your sparkle, and help yourself grow in that place and walk away. It's like any relationship, you know, if a relationship is not working out, you're not going to sit there and continue and complain, and just walk away from it. Find the other place. Be brave to find the place that welcomes you and is happy to have you.
So, Aviva, I do agree with Deshni, but I do know that women struggle with leaving. I mean, even, you know, our families take all of our energy and our time, our teenagers, you know, we battle with them. We won't leave them, right, Saloni? What are the 3 practical tips you could tell a woman who is not in alignment with what's going on in the workplace, but still stays anyway? What could you, 3 practical things you could tell her to do? Because she does need to leave, and she knows she needs to leave, but she won't leave. So what would you suggest?
I think the issue you're both talking about is that there are, what has changed in the world is that there are some organizations that are better than others. But that's only in some countries. In some countries, I named a few that are extraordinarily difficult still for women. You won't find any companies where you're going to survive easily, right? There's always, what you went through, Cordelia, there's always a small number of women who can fight their way through and pioneer to the top. God love them. But we're never going to get the numbers that we need and the leveraging of the 60% of educated brains that are now women. So what women can do, and it shouldn't be just women, it should be find male allies, network together with people who think that it would be better for the organization and your country to shift, or your sector, gather together like-minded people and start measuring and lobbying. What are the best organizations? What are the numbers? What do they look like? Name and shame. If you want to look at our website, we have these scorecards on different countries and sectors that rank how are companies doing. And we start building a voice and a pressure for change. I think there's a lot that we can do to lobby. But no, I don't think that women on their own, you know, that we managed to get a handful of survivors through the existing system. We need to be more ambitious than that now. We need to change the system.
Fabulous. Saloni, one more for us. Any more?
We have a lot of questions pouring in, but I will rather put them in the chat box since the time doesn't permit. I would like to thank all of you for taking out your valuable time, coming here and making this panel session so engaging. I think this is the only panel discussion or speech where men were equally interested. So that truly brings out the purpose of the panel. Thank you so much. We just loved it.
You're welcome. Glad that we could be of assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lovely being with you. Thanks, Cordelia. Great job.
You're welcome. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.